Hello, thank you all for coming. I'm Eli Portillo, Executive Editor here at WFAE. And as Eric said, thank you for braving the weather. I admit, when I got out of my car, I was like, is anyone else going to be here? So it is so good to see that not only candidates, but also people who are interested in this contest have shown up. We're going to get started in just a minute, but first I wanted to let you know that WFAE and the League of Women Voters of Charlotte-Mecklenburg are really committed to bringing local, in-depth reporting, news, and the chance to see and interact with candidates for these local races. We had a forum as well for Charlotte City Council, and we are so appreciative of the League for partnering with us on this forum. Here at WFAE, we have a long tradition of strong education reporting and hopefully reporting that goes beyond quick hit headlines and really gives us the chance to dive into the issues that shape our schools, our community, and so many important things around Charlotte. I have one child in CMS schools myself, and next year it will be 2. So I am personally invested in this, as I know so many in our community are, and that is a great reminder of why this matters. So before I invite Jane Hoffman up here, just wanted to mention a couple quick logistical things to piggyback on Eric's quick logistical things. We will be hustling through tonight. We have a lot of contests to get through, and we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to have their allotted time. So I will be acting as a timekeeper, sitting in the back middle there. James will look at me holding up time cards, and for the folks who are on stage, that will be some good cues for you as well. Sorry, I didn't realize I'm standing directly in front of you. Hi. You guys just snuck up here while I was talking. And again, please let folks know that in addition to the live stream of this full event being available and archived, we will be airing this as a Charlotte Talks episode on Thursday. So as you share news and information with the people in your networks, please let them know how they can access both the full event and the Charlotte Talks recording. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome up Jane Hoffman with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg League of Women Voters.
Thank you. So my name's Jane Hoffman, and I'm the president of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg chapter of the League of Women Voters. And it is my pleasure to be here. Our mission is empowering voters and defending democracy. And I think tonight we're doing both. Because, first of all, an educated public is critical to have a democracy. And so public education is a foundational component of that. And tonight we're going to be hearing from candidates who want to be on the board, and for all of you out there to hear them and make a decision about who is going to best reflect what you want to see happening for your children in our schools. So I think we get a little bit of both with those. The other thing I would say is that sadly, municipal elections such as this, which don't involve some federal office or presidential race, typically don't get big turnouts. So what I'm going to ask each of you, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're here in the room, when you vote, find 2 or 3 people who've been kind of going, I don't know, there's nothing to vote for. Drag them to the polls and make sure they vote, because we need people to vote in elections that matter the most. And local elections matter to you and me far more than who we send to Congress and who we elect for president. So I'm probably talking to people who already believe this, but get the message out to your neighbors, your friends, and your family who don't think it's important, because it is. It's very important. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to James to start the conversation.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for coming to tonight's candidate forum. We're really excited to have you all here. Just a couple ground rules to kind of set the tone for what's going to happen. For each race, I'm going to give each candidate 1 minute to provide an introductory statement, just saying why you're running. Eli will be in the back keeping time. He'll hold up a sign when there's 10 seconds left on the clock. And then all of the conversations after that, the questions and answers. For the races that have 3 candidates, we'll do about 15 minutes of questions and answers. And in the races with 2, it'll be about 10 minutes. So without further ado, we're going to get started here with District 1. We have board member Melissa Easley, Bill Fountain, and Charlotte Hatch. Thank you guys for coming here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to get started with the 1 minute introductory statements. Board member Easley, if you'd like to begin, you have 1 minute. And again, Eli's in the back there. He'll hold up when you have 10 seconds left.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Easley, and I am your Democratic incumbent currently sitting in the seat of District 1. I am a 19-year veteran educator, and I have 2 students in CMS, and I have been an educational advocate for over a decade now, pushing for North Carolina to have better schools and to treat our teachers with professionals. I taught 10 years in CMS, and I have 2 students in our choice programs here in CMS, and so I'm really, really proud of that. I am the only board member, or I am the only candidate that has board, teaching, and parent experience. And I think it is really, really important to have all 3 of those aspects because those are the top 3 things that we look at. I've also been very instrumental in helping with the immense amount of growth that we've had in CMS, and I look forward to earning your vote tonight.
Great, thank you. Bill, if you'd like to go next, you have 1 minute.
Well, welcome. I'm Bill Fountain. I'm a Christian, a father, grandfather, also a husband first, all right, and then a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, a business manager, and a licensed North Carolina teacher where I taught for 10 years. What I've seen is over the years, I've seen that the CMS school board seems to be pushing things to the board of social and political agenda that is undermining our family values, tolerating code of student conduct violations, and steering some people toward a victimhood mindset. I say, hey, it's time to stop that. What we need to be doing is focused on things that work, and that's better behavior in the classroom, and I think of developing character, things like resilience, your self-control, those type of things. And I have the leadership, teamwork, and in the classroom experience to be able to start preparing students for success. And success does not mean leveling the playing field.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, and last we have Charlotte Hatch. Charlotte, you have 1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. I am Charlotte from Charlotte, and I am so proud to be your Democratic endorsed candidate. There are 3 things I want to kick us off with knowing. 1, I am so proud to share that I will be defending my dissertation on Monday at 9 a.m., where I have been studying for the last 5 years why families are choosing or not choosing CMS. And I think that voice is critical right now when we think about the state of public education and the dismantling we see happening before us. We really need to think about how do we recruit and reclaim families back as we restore our public trust. 2, I am currently the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the City of Charlotte, where I'm responsible for our business intelligence and artificial intelligence strategy, where I think every board needs someone that has AI expertise as we think about how do we do this responsibly, ethically, how this will shape the way our teachers teach, our students learn, as well as how our organization will run. And lastly, I believe that we are in a crisis. And as we think about how we navigate through that, we want to make sure that you have a leader that's not just advocacy, but solutions-oriented. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to dive into the questions. We'll have about 15 minutes worth of questions. I do ask the candidates try to be as brief as possible so we can get to as many questions as possible. I'm going to start with one about student achievement. CMS recently celebrated historic academic growth across the district. There were also some rough spots, like 3rd grade reading scores, which were down, and graduation rates, which were slightly down. I'm wondering if you could reflect on what this year's results say about the progress CMS has made and how CMS can continue to improve. And this time, Charlotte, we'll start with you and go reverse order.
Awesome. I think that one of the things that we can say about our student achievement scores is that the work and the leadership from the superintendent is working, the direction in which the district is going. I think we do need to expand the conversation from just student achievement to student opportunities, because we know that when opportunities are equitable, then that will also level the playing field for achievement. Specifically in District 1, where there is a disparity, where you have schools that are A schools and F schools, we really need to do a deeper analysis with our data to understand what opportunities are happening at the highest performing schools that are not happening at our lowest performing schools, and have some critical conversations about how we can level those playing fields so that we can have achievement across the district.
Great, thank you. Bill?
Well, I applaud the improvements in the staff in the student performance. However, you need to look at a couple of things that are troubling to me. It's about 44% of the students are not meeting about 44% of the students are not proficient at grade level. And we've also seen that, and through Arthur Griffin, in fact, pointed out the fact that we are socially promoting students. If we got like 2,100 of 9,700 students, in the 2024, the graduating class had a GPA below 2.0, and that means that they're not going to be able to be enlisted, enrolled, or employed. And that's not very good for it. And we need to focus back on something that, instead of leveling our student outcomes and doing social promotions, we need to make sure these students are prepared for the future, and that's the reading, writing, and math. And those things, I think, really need to be turned around, and I don't see that happening right now. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Bill. Melissa?
First thing I want to say is I want to reiterate historic gains. CMS 1882. 1882 is when CMS started. Over 100 years, we have not had gains like this. I contribute that to several things. The first thing I contribute that to is the stability that Dr. Hill has brought to our district. That is the number one thing. You know, I taught in the district for over 10 years. I went through 7 superintendents. There's a lot of difference when there's a lot of turnover like that. Dr. Hill has absolutely brought stability and strategic plans to the district, which is incredibly important. The second thing I think we've done is our board, including myself and all the rest of the 9 members, have truly held Dr. Hill accountable to what we want and what our goals were, and that is asking strategic questions. That is being part of our SOFG. That is being involved not just on a surface level, but really diving in and understanding what is being done, where is it being done, who is it being affected by. And so those are things that I, as current board member, have done and have held and have been very strong in holding people accountable in our district, and I continue to do that. The only way these numbers are going to continue to go up and those achievement gaps are going to continue to close after historic gains is if we keep moving in the right direction and we keep doing the same things that we're doing. Is it perfect? No. Are we where we want to be? Absolutely not. But the ship is righting, and then that is taking a full team of all of 20,000 CMS students, teachers, staff, and us as board members to work together to do that.
Great, thank you. All right, for our next question, we're going to move on to a question about school funding. So in the last budget cycle, there was some debate on the board about whether CMS should ask Mecklenburg County for additional funding to fund a higher teacher salary supplement, even as a bulk of teacher salary is typically set by the state. We have no budget from the state at this time, and there has been some uncertainty from Washington in terms of federal education funding. Given this continued uncertainty in state and federal revenue sources, going forward, do you believe Mecklenburg County will need to play a bigger role than it already does in ensuring schools are adequately funded? And Bill, we'll start with you this time.
Well, I think there are two levels of things. One is the teacher pay, which you're exactly right, that needs to be increased, and having a larger supplement. I think, from my perspective, is that the bureaucracy within the CMS school system has really grown versus the number of teachers and the number of students. And I think some of that could be trimmed to be able to supplement teacher pay and to reduce the class sizes. The other thing is that we can argue about how do we get more money from the state or from the federal government. That may not be able to solve the problems, but there's been another thing has been mission creep within the school system. In fact, several years ago, there was 3 teachers that were interviewed by the Charlotte Observer, and one of the things they said, hey, we are not psychiatrists, we're not counselors, we're not policemen, we're not nurses, and yet their teachers are being expected to be able to do that. and that takes up a lot of their time. And they said, hey, we're not getting any paid for that type of job. So there's been a mission creep that the school system should offload a lot of that things, I think, onto the county. Thank you.
Charlita, we'll go with you next.
Yes. So I think one of the things that I believe is important as a board member is that we stop talking about what we can't do or what we don't have control of and really start to think about what we can do and how do we provide innovative solutions to doing that. So for example, as you think about the CMS housing initiative, which was a brilliant way to figure out how do we continue to add value to our teachers and to our school overall. And I think we're going to have to see more and more of that come not just on the county, but also figuring out how do we solve that problem with public-private partnerships, because we know that there's uncertainty between the federal and state, but people do not care what you cannot do. Students for sure do not care what you are not able to do. They want to know what you can do, and I believe with the right people at the table, providing innovative solutions and building relationships across the aisle, we will be able to not only sustain what we have, but I believe we can see growth.
Melissa.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question is, in going forward, given the uncertainty in revenue at the state and federal levels, will we need to ask Mecklenburg County to play a bigger role than it already does in ensuring schools are adequately funded?
So in full transparency, which is, one of my statements, I was one of those that voted against the budget. And I did that because several months earlier, in January, February, we had a board retreat where all 9 of us and staff agreed that we should ask the state in our legislative agenda for an 8% raise. And that was something that would be a significant raise to our teachers, because let's throw it out there, student achievement isn't going to happen if there is not a qualified teacher in front of them. That is the only way to move the needle. And so when all of this is happening, we need to make sure that we're putting the right people in the position that is willing to go to bat and say, listen, our educators are starving. Our educators are not getting what they need. And the only way to get the results that the state wants to see is to have an educator in every room. So yes, I think the county is going to pick that up, not because they want to, not because they feel they should, but because they have to. And because our county commissioners, we have amazing county commissioners that know how important our education is and so they are willing to sacrifice other things to make sure that our teachers are taken care of as much as they can. But that also goes to the advocacy point. We need all of us together. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. It doesn't matter what you think. The education is the great equalizer. And without the county, we would not be able to do what we do in CMS, and so they are 100% behind us, but I think it's gonna take them, it's gonna take us as community members, it's gonna take our staff, it's gonna take everybody to raise up voices and say, enough is enough, it shouldn't be the county's problem. So yes, I think the county will step up because that's who they are, not because of us demanding more or anything like that.
Okay, next question. CMS's communication with families has come under scrutiny in recent years, with concerns over reporting safety incidents or the departures of high-profile staff members at certain schools. What role can the board play in helping improve transparency and communication at CMS? And Melissa, we'll start with you this time.
Well, I think this is the number one thing that I've done in my term. I have started a newsletter called Chalk Talk. I put the first edition out December of 2022. And in fact, the next edition is coming out by next Friday, right after our board meeting. That is something that I have done because as an educator, I understood that transparency was an issue, both from the staff point, from leadership to staff, but also from leadership to district, to leadership to community. And so that's what I have done. And a lot of what the Chalk Talk is it breaks down what we did at the board meeting, why we did that, and what effect does it have on you. I also do a lot of shout outs of what's going on in the area that you can be part of. If a school is looking for really in need of volunteers for whatever, tutoring or, coverage or whatever it is that they specifically need, I've put things out in there. And that is the way I put that out on social media. I put that out, there's all on my website. And that has been a very big way that I have gotten out into the community and tried to explain some of this. I've explained that we don't have control over teacher pay. That is the state. And so a lot of counties don't do that. I've also added an in-person event, and that is my Minute with Melissa, which has been every month. I go out to a local place in one of the towns, and I sit there and invite people to come talk to me. I've done everything from help them fill out applications to explaining what things mean or how we go about that. And so, I hear that people think that we're not accessible as a board or individual, and I say to them, well, where, have you been involved? Because I've had meetings that you are open meetings for you to come for every month for the last 3 years. And so if you haven't known about that, it means that you haven't been involved. So what I need to do on my next term is figure out other ways to get that information out to people if they're not seeing it, to make sure that we bring people in. So yes, transparency is a huge thing. I keep pushing for our, better communication along the lines, and I do that. I, lead by example.
Thank you. Bill.
I think what Melissa's doing there is commendable. I'd hope to be able to do the same thing. Another thing about the transparency, and this is where I think particularly parents are concerned about, is that they hear of fights, they hear of teachers being cursed out, they hear these bad stories. And in fact, I just heard just the other day of a couple of students being overdosed in one of our middle schools, which is shocking. And of course, you don't hear that if you don't hear any in the news, because it's somehow, I don't know whether it's covered up or what, it just doesn't bubble up. And parents know these actions that are going on, and yet when they don't see anything in any response from the school system or whatever, it makes people doubt of what are they getting the real true story. And I think that's the doubt brings in uncertainty about the public schools, and we want to have strong public schools. In strong public schools, you got to have transparency. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Charlita.
So one of the things that I think I bring to the board is that although I'm not a former classroom educator, I do teach 2 classes at UNC Charlotte. But having that view that's not an insider, I think it's going to be really critical, not as we think about the past, but really thinking about what is needed as we move forward. Because if you put out information, and there's tons of information being put out from the district every day, but it is not being absorbed, it is not landing, you've got to really think about how you diversify that strategy. We've got to really start to unpack what does it mean for family engagement, and that when we say parents and communicating to parents, that there's parents of different generations, different socioeconomic status, different levels of kids, different kids with different needs, different grades. And so having an external communication plan that really is going to be tailored to the families is going to be critical as we move forward with all of the different communication modes that we have. And so I think as much as we're putting information out there and saying that we're being transparent, if it's not being digestible from the people that you need to receive it, we've got to rethink those strategies. And the work that I've done over the last 5 years in my doctoral studies has really been centered around what are families looking for, what type of communication are they looking for, and what are they missing from CMS. And I believe that voice that I bring to the table will not just be my voice, but will be the voices of those families that I've been studying over the last 5 years that will really help us land communication and family engagement.
Okay, great. All right, I think that is all the time we have for District 1. Thank you, all 3 of you, for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And next, we will welcome on stage the candidates for District 2. This seat is currently occupied by Board Member Thelma Byers-Bailey, who is not seeking re-election. So tonight we have Juanrique Hall and Shemaye Haynes. Okay, good. Good evening, and thank you both for being with us tonight. So to go over the ground rules again, you'll each have 1 minute to provide an introductory statement telling us why you're running for the school board, and then because there's 2 candidates in this race, we will have 10 minutes for questions and answers. So Shemaye, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and also WFAE for putting on this event. It's extremely important for the public to understand who candidates are, and so that they can make the best vote that they possibly can. I came here tonight not to play around. I came here tonight to tell you that I want your support, not because I can go out on Twitter or Facebook or tell you anything about who I am, my background, and what I stand for. I come here with receipts. That's the beauty about having a digital footprint when you've worked in this community for a decade. Go Google me. You will see what I've done. I don't lie about my name, my address, my background, where I stand, and who I stand for. I only have a minute to tell you that if you want somebody who is competent, not only competent, but has done their homework, vote for Shemaya Haynes if you want change. Thank you.
Thank you. Enrique.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Juan Enrique Palamente Hall. I'm a father and a grandfather. I've been married to my wife for 30 years. We have 4 kids. I'm a certified aircraft mechanic. I'm a certified diesel mechanic. I'm also a college coach up at Livingstone College. I'm over player personnel and youth advocacy. The reason why I'm running for school board is simply because I want to see kids do better. I was a troubled kid, and I know what it is to be a troubled kid, and I know how to deal with kids. I know how to meet them on their level and make them understand that sometimes people can say things and talk over you and make you feel less than. And that's the person I don't want them to understand that people are. I'm a multicultural candidate. I'm the type person that don't draw lines in the sand, but I draw circles around people to bring us together. And that's the reason why I run for CMS School Board. I want kids to learn to get back to the basics.
Thank you.
Learn how to read a clock. All right.
Thank you. All right. We're going to get started with the same question I asked last time, which is that CMS recently celebrated historic academic growth across the district. We did note some rough spots, third grade reading scores being down, for instance, graduation rates. What do you believe this year's results say about the progress CMS has made, and how can CMS continue to improve? Juan Enrique, we'll start with you this time.
Well, I think that CMS is doing a great job as far as building schools, making things more accessible to some of the kids that don't have them. They are doing a great job with youth advocacy. But I think what needs to be done in CMS to bring kids things better is they need to understand the product that they're dealing with, because every district have unique issues. All districts are not the same. And we can't keep lumping all the districts together and think you're going to get the same outcomes. Some kids are dealing with different issues than the other ones are. So basically what I'm saying is we need to sit back and understand what's going on with each kid, each problem they may have, and the families that we're dealing with.
Great. Thank you. Shemaya.
So I want to first of all lift up the good things about our school system. Because when I got active in as an active constituent, I saw a lot of failures in the system. There are things that we can definitely still improve upon. We're not there yet. What I want to tell you is that as a candidate, because I have seen some of the changes, now I can say, yes, we're doing better, but here are our second or third level things that we need to look at. First, I have all of the trust that through SOFG, we're going to make improvements where we need to make them academically. Our superintendent has an education background. She clearly understands how to improve things academically. That second or third step is family engagement. And family and community engagement, and even a step further, family and community involvement. The things that my opponent speaks about, I can agree with that. But I'm a candidate who's already put forth solutions and who's already taken steps through getting grants that go directly to a solution that impacts CMS. That is the dividing factor. We both care about this community. But I've demonstrated what I'm capable of doing as a non-elected official. And that's important. District 2 is that important to me, that we bring somebody on our school board to represent District 2 that's not only, that doesn't just care about it, but understands what you need to do to implement things, how you lift up CMS, as well as talk about improvements. and how you do things that support our public school system and not the latter. I just will wrap up by saying this. We have a lot of good things going on at CMS, but we need to get more boots on the ground from the community and from outside of just the school building to take it to that second or third level.
Thank you. Next question on school funding. Across North Carolina, there have been longstanding concerns about teacher vacancies and turnover. And while school districts across the state have reported some progress in this area, some of that has reportedly been due to cuts of vacant positions and the loss of federal pandemic relief funding. What should CMS do to bolster recruitment and retention of teachers, and how can the board support those efforts? And Shemaya, we'll start with you.
Well, I don't believe in talking out of the side of my neck or speaking about things that I don't fully understand. But from a constituent standpoint, I think that we have a problem that teachers are not actually going to school to graduate in education. It's a field that you have to be certified in. It's a field that you don't want kids to be put in a classroom where there's an inexperienced teacher. So what we gotta kinda do is think out of the box. Maybe we could think about our paraprofession pool, expanding that, knowing that we can expand that to make it so that teachers have a faster pipeline to certification. People who already have classroom experience so that we're not getting away from the quality aspect of it, but that we uplift people who may not be able to go to school for 4 years, but definitely have the experience. That's just one solution to a larger problem. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Juanrique.
Can you repeat it again, please?
Yes, what can CMS do to improve the recruitment and retention of teachers, and how can the board support those efforts?
Well, the first thing of it is we got to get the discipline under control, because that's the major thing that keeps teachers in the classroom. We got to make sure that administration is supporting the teachers, because if a teacher takes a kid out of a classroom and they right back in there, then there's no support. So they feel like they don't have any support. So that's how you lose the teachers. But what we need to do is really sit back and address key issues. Like I say, once again, the foundation. We got to get our foundation right. We got to get back to the basics. We got to get kids back to respecting each other and have a code of conduct. It's just that simple. Until we get a foundation where kids respect the elders, respect going to school, and also respect themselves, things are never going to change.
Great, thank you. Okay, the Trump administration has made efforts to eliminate so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies at schools across the country. This has led to federal investigations of some school districts and cuts to certain grants. How should CMS respond to this federal policy change? And Juanrique, we'll start with you.
Well, you know, I'm a football coach, so that right there is crazy, because everything I do is based on your performance on the football field. If you're not doing well, you're not going to play. So we make you get better at what you do. So only thing I'm saying is, if you want to get better, you got to do better. You got to study hard, and you got to set a goal for yourself and prioritize your things you do in life. That's the best I can say on that.
Great, thank you. Shemaya.
Wow. So from my perspective, I think what we have to come to is we know what we're up against federally. And unfortunately, we're not in control of what takes place federally, which one of the cornerstones of my platform is community involvement. Unfortunately, the bad news is no one is going to save our ship anytime soon. So as a school system, what we got to look to is our community to say, listen, we don't have teachers and mental health professionals and things like that. And so what we try to do is we try to identify solutions that equip our community. As a person who, my great-grandmother built 10 one-room schoolhouses between Athens, Georgia, and Mount Bayou, Mississippi. And at that time, we were in a very devastating place as Black people. They would hang the teachers and burn the schoolhouses down. But children still learned because we cared enough and we examined things enough to build in a system where no one was going to help us or take us from that. So what I'll say is, community, I will call on you to help us. I will call on businesses. I will call on others. And also, let's not ask people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps when they don't have boots. Thank you.
Great. I think we have a little more than a minute left, so I'm going to try to squeeze in one, but let's try to be quick with it. What would you say is the biggest need facing the schools in your district specifically? And Shemaya, you could start.
So District 2 is not spoken about as it was 10 years ago. District 2 was the brunt of CMS. It was known as all of the failing schools in one district wrapped in one, in all. And we've made some strides. But again, I'll put this point out there. Our community wants to partner with the schools, and we have to set up structures and foundation to support heavy volunteerism, welcoming, being a part of the school where your children attend or maybe not even attend. It's okay to say we want community in the schools and families in the schools, but we got to create the foundation for that. And that's where the school board really comes in. You can count on me for that. I've already started that process. Thank you.
Thank you. And Juanrique.
Well, in District 2, we have a bouquet of schools. We have Northwest, we have Northwest School of the Arts. That's one of the best high schools in the city of Charlotte, and it's on Beatty'sford Road. And then we have West Charlotte that they're making strides. We got West Meg, Hardin, Philip O'Berry, J.T. Williams, Montessori. But each one of those schools come with their own particular problems. And like I said before, we have to address each school as an individual school, see what problems they have to help the kids and the parents in that sector. Because at the end of the day, a kid at Northwest School of the Arts might go home to power. A kid at Hardin or Philip O'Berry might go home to no power. So we have to understand that all of these kids can't be lumped into one pile and think they're going to achieve. It just don't happen that way. And we got to stop trying to wave a wand and make everything all beautiful. I'm here as a transparent person. I'm not trying to do nothing but give you understanding.
Thank you.
And real.
Great. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Candidates from District 2. One quick note. The seat for District 3 is also up for re-election, but that seat is unopposed, so just that's represented by Dee Rankin, who is here right now. But now we'll welcome the candidates from District 4, which is candidate Robert Edwards, candidate Jillian King, and board member Stephanie Sneed. Great. Thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. So you know the deal by now. You'll each have 1 minute to tell us why you're running for the school board, and then because there are 3 of you, we'll have 15 minutes for questions and answers. So first question is, why run for the school board? Jillian, if you'd like to start.
Thank you. Thank you, WFAE and the League of Women Voters, and to everyone here tonight and everyone watching online for being super engaged in your local public school board of election Board of Education election. My name is Jillian King. I am a veteran career and technical education teacher. I taught various CTE classes in middle and high school in CMS. I left when I had my daughter. She is a rambunctious toddler who will be joining our public schools here in a couple of years. And so I've learned a lot about the early childhood education and development on that side of things as well recently. Some of the things that I stand for is safety is my #1 priority for all of our students. All, meaning all, no exceptions. And safety encompasses mental, emotional, and physical health. The other thing is transparent communication and making sure that we have our lines always open to anyone who wants to reach us with accessible answers. Thank you.
Robert?
Hey, good evening, and thank you for the invitation. Of course, I'm Robert Edwards, and I am, 20 years in education, higher education, K-12, and I'm currently an EC teacher that works for CMS, and I've been active for a while in leadership positions, making decisions and working for other agencies with accreditations and also just working with youth, at-risk youth. And this has been ever since from college, working with at-risk youth and mental health, those with mental health needs. And also, too, that the reason for that I'm running for this position is because I believe that this is now a time in life that we really need leadership in position to make sound decisions that are not corrupt, that's not wavering in their thought, that are able to hold others accountable in their actions to make sure that all the students are going into the direction that they need to go into. So that's mainly the reason why I'm here, because I believe that I'm that person that can make that happen.
Thanks. Stephanie.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Sneed. I have the honor and privilege of serving as the chair of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Board of Education, the 16th largest school district in the country, with 19,000 employees, 141,000 students, 186 schools. Why am I doing this? Because the school board, as I say, if you've heard me speak before, is the most important elected body in the state. And why is that? Because what happens with children in our schools shapes generations. It has generational impact. Anything that you can name, I challenge people to this, that you think is an ill of Charlotte, I can trace it back to education. But about me is that I'm an attorney, practice in the area of labor and employment law, started my career in the area of child protective services. I am a CMS parent, a current CMS parent, have lots of community experience in the space of PTA, CMS volunteer, Girl Scout leader, education committee member from the Black Political Caucus, as well as chair of the Black Political Caucus at one point. I've served as my voting precinct chair. So I've done the work and laid the groundwork to gain the experience of what is needed by the community and the expertise of bringing my experiences to the school board.
Thank you. Great. All right, we're going to get started with the same question I've started the last two on, which is that CMS celebrated historic academic growth this year. I'd like you all to reflect on what this year's results say about the progress CMS has made and how CMS can continue to improve. And Stephanie, we'll start with you this time.
So I want to just say, when I say we've had historic gains, that means historic. And I just want to highlight a few of them so it's not lost on what we're really here about. We removed 31 schools from the low performing list. We have 156 schools that meted or exceeded growth. We had 115 schools with the highest, that have exceeded growth in the highest percentage in CMS history. We are outperformed North Carolina in overall grade level proficiencies in 3rd through 8th grade reading, 3rd through 8th grade math, and Math 3. That's historic. That is historic. So that we need to sit in that for a minute to say that the work that is being done is working. Are we where we should be? Absolutely not. Do we still have achievement gaps? Absolutely. Or is there more to? Is there additional work to be done? Yes. We only have 6 schools remaining out of 186 that are F schools. Next year, those schools won't be on the list. They won't. So we need to sit in those achievements because it means something. It should not be glossed over. And we do have more work to do.
Thank you. Robert.
Okay, can you give me the question again, please?
Yes. Can you reflect on what this year's test results say about the progress CMS has made, and how can CMS continue to improve?
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, of course, being an educator and being in CMS and working and being a part of the process, yes, there have been a great improvement over the years. But I believe that in order for us to really maintain this and take it to the next level, that we need to have people positioned in place to be able to make sure that things are moving forward in that direction. Also, that in order for that to be, for us to be really to move to that next level, there are a lot of things that internally that that still needs attention, that a lot of times is overlooked or either is the elephant in the room. So I believe that mainly we just need to really focus on a lot of things that teachers, parents, and community members are kind of crying out now for help and support in certain areas in order to keep things going, because I know that even though we're still at a great place right now, that they can kind of go south real quick if we're not sitting down and looking at where we're at and really just covering every areas, not just the big areas, but just the small things too, because I know that the small things, the micro things, can really cause big damage.
Great, thank you. Jillian.
The increased test scores have been amazing, and there's merit in that, and we should celebrate that. But I think that's all we've really done for about 2 months now. And looking at that data, we need to think critically about it. That's what we're missing when we focus so heavily on just raising test scores, is this critical thinking piece. What does that data mean, right? If we have lower graduation rates and higher test scores, does that mean that we're missing a piece that involves mental health for our students? Things that make them, are we taking out classes that bring joy to their lives in our schools? Things that keep kids in schools, right? Keep them there till graduation. What do these test scores mean for our teachers and their burnout level? As a teacher in the classroom, I can tell you, like, there's lots of great ways to raise test scores, but those aren't the things that matter, these standardized test scores. There's merit in raising them, and that's fantastic. But we need to think critically about the data, and we need to be measuring success for students, for schools, for CMS in more than just test scores.
Great, thank you. For the next question, with no state budget in sight at this point and continued uncertainty from Washington when it comes to school funding, there are a host of uncertainties that could impact this year's budget cycle. With this in mind, what funding priorities would you push to protect in this next budget cycle? And Robert, we'll begin with you this time.
The funding that I will protect, of course, would be, what funding would I protect? There's a lot that needs to be protected. And I think the main thing would be the funding that would be needed to keep teachers in place. Because right now, of course, we have closed the gap a little bit, but there are still other areas that need to be kind of put into place to protect and to make sure that teachers are not, discouraged and cause them to leave.
Great. Jillian.
Teacher pay is number one. I think it was Classroom Central did a survey recently of CMS teachers, and the number one concern on most of their lists is their pay. They're not getting paid what they deserve. They never have. They deserve so much more, and our state has not made that happen. So definitely protecting, preserving, and increasing teacher pay in any way we can. And then also just the programs that break down barriers for our students. So whether that's before and after school programs, whether that's breakfast and lunches, whatever we need to do to make sure that all of our students are happy and healthy and able to be at school despite any barriers they may have at home.
Great, thank you. Stephanie.
So I just want to give a little bit of a broader answer in the sense of one of the things is that when we're tracking our data with our students, it's specifically in our guardrails that we cannot forsake the whole child. So that's the first thing. So bridging that into how can we protect funding, what we should do protect funding, we cannot forsake the whole child, whatever that looks like. So all of the funding will be should be geared towards that. And whole child, what does that mean? That means they have academic performance, right? That means what our fourth goal is to make sure all of our children is what the community, you all have said is important to you, to make sure that they leave employed with gainful employment within a meaningful wage, that they are enlisted in the armed services in a skilled area or enrolled in higher learning. So all of those things compounded, what does that look like? Does that mean supporting our teachers as well? Absolutely. So all of those things is what we look to in our budget cycles in determining what should be protected and what should not. And of course, advocacy, because a lot of people don't necessarily know. So that's why we had campaigns with our legislative agenda called Stop the Pay Gap, so people can know what's happening at our state and our federal level. And we had advocacy not only at the state and the federal level as well. So those activities are is important to continue.
Great, thank you. Okay, for the next question. In recent months, many residents have spoken out about concerns about the potential for federal immigration agents to visit schools given changes to federal policy. CMS has set new regulations around how it deals with immigration enforcement in response. In your view, has CMS appropriately responded to this change in federal policy? Stephanie, we'll start with you.
So I do want to be very clear about something. One is, ICE has not been on school properties, so that's number one. The second thing is the communication, so there technically has not been a change in our guidance in the sense of you can't just enter our schools. You can't loiter in the parking lot. You can't just sit on our property. And we have painstakingly gone through the process, and I went back and looked, at least on half a dozen occasions, reached out directly to parents to say, this is how your students will be protected. This is how your students will be protected. Now, are there other things, information that's out in the community that is inaccurate? Absolutely. Are we fighting against that? Yes. There have been training videos to our staff, training videos to our staff from principals down to the front desk staff. We are committed to making sure our students are safe and feel safe, including providing mental health support in those particular areas. But the reality is we have to be careful on how we balance what our communications are. We don't want to be in a situation where we're inviting activity on our properties. That's important. But we have the procedures in place and have communicated those to be sure that ICE is not just allowed in our classroom to snatch children out of our classrooms, that they can't come onto our school buses. Those are things that are critical that we have as a board and as a district have looked into. How can we protect our students?
Thank you. Robert.
Okay, give me the question one more time, please.
Yes. Given the CMS has recently set new regulations around how it deals with immigration enforcement. In your view, has CMS appropriately responded to the change in federal policy about allowing ICE on school grounds?
Okay, yeah. In my view, and of course, from the inside, speaking out, that as it relates to dealing with immigration and the policies and all that and everything else, that I believe that CMS have done a good job in implementing that and holding true to that. I work at a Title I school with I want to say a high percentage of immigrants. And I have not personally witnessed anything that it revolves dealing with ICE, and the students appears to be safe, feel safe compared to how things was when the whole immigration or ICE situation had took place. Now moving forward, will that take place? Anything go south? I can't say because we're not at that point. We just haven't had any incidents. So, but I think that we continue to do what we're doing right now and just making sure that our students are the top priority and that they are protected and that the learning environment is not disrupted by any outside, such as ICE. I believe that we're going to be okay in that area.
Thank you. Jillian.
I'm glad CMS has done something, but there's a lot more that can be done. A lot of schools like Wake County, Carrboro schools, Durham schools have safe zone resolutions that they have in place which have added protections. Essentially, you ever just make something really, really obnoxious to do and so people don't really go through all the hoops? Essentially, it adds some of those extra annoying things that agents would have to do to make sure that they do all these approvals and they go to the superintendent's office and all these extra steps to get these things through before they could even speak to a student or family, right? And then also it has where SRO officers, the school resource officers, or any police person employed with CMS would sign agreements that say that they would not cooperate, that they would not ask about immigration status, they have no authority to do any of the tasks that agent may come to do. There's also stipulations in there about handing out know your rights information to students, to parents, making sure that that's readily available on all of our campuses, and having that safe zone resolution posted at all of the campuses so that everyone knows what the school system needs to be doing to keep our students protected. Because there is more we can do, and we need to put in those added assurances, because if people are scared and they're coming to the school board and they're saying that our community doesn't like this, that you haven't done enough, we need to listen to that, and we need to address it and do something about it.
Great. Thank you all. That's all the time we have for this one, so thank you very much. Okay. Next, we will have the candidates for District 5. That's Board Member Lisa Klein and candidate Cynthia Stone.
Hey, how you doing? Good. Thanks for being here. Thanks for fixing this. I'm kind of short.
All right, thank you both for being here. We really appreciate it. So by now you probably know the spiel, but you'll each have 1 minute to tell us why you're running. Eli will be in the back pointing out when there's 10 seconds left. And then when that's done, we'll have about 10 minutes for questions and answers. So we'll start with why you're running, and Cynthia, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Thanks to the League and WFAE for providing us the opportunity to let the voters know who we are and what's going on. I'm Cynthia Stone. I'm a Charlotte native. I was in the school system as a student. I parented as a parent of 2 adults. And I've most recently retired from an elementary classroom in CMS in December of 2023. So I taught during COVID. I returned to education after about a 25-year gap in corporate because my values drove me to a classroom. Education is the one thing that can eradicate poverty. I believe that, I live that way, and I went to a classroom because education happens in the classroom. So I hope you consider that when you think about District 5.
Great, thank you, Cynthia. Lisa.
Thank you for sponsoring this tonight, James, and for the League of Women Voters. It's a privilege and an honor to be here. I have 45 years of educational experience. After I was elected the last time, my son made a sign for me. It's in my office, my whys: the students, the families, and the teachers. I spent my time here in CMS, 30 years, not only as a teacher, but as an administrator, a parent. I served on the PTA boards of my children's elementary, middle, and high schools all the time while I was teaching. I also now serve with Charity League of Charlotte, where we sponsor Title I schools, and with Rotary, where we sponsor children within Mecklenburg County. So my job is 24/7 as a board member, and why I do this.
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to start with the same question that I've been asking at the start of each conversation, which is that CMS recently celebrated historic academic growth across the district, with some spots that could be improved as well. What do you believe this year's results say about the progress that CMS has made, and how can CMS continue to improve? Lisa, you can start us off.
It's no secret, we have made historic gains. This year is the telltale year. With our leadership in place right now, they are guiding us to continue our growth. Dr. Hill and her staff have put in place a great guidelines with the goals and the guardrails for our teachers to follow and our staff. So right now, we will see, hopefully, the proof of the hard work for the past 2 years. And it's incumbent of us as board members to support the staff through questioning and supporting them and seeing how that they will continue to grow. So yes, we've made that growth. It's been great. We've celebrated, but we're looking forward. And I think we've got the compass going the right way with the schools.
Thank you. Cynthia.
I'm glad you asked the question, because growth is definitely a critical element, and seeing this growth is phenomenal. But we also have to ask ourselves, how does that equate to achievement? Where does that align with achievement too? Because they're really two different numbers. So I'd like to look below the data, and I'd also like to focus more on the subgroup performance. We've got many children who have not made growth. We need to ask ourselves, why not? Does it have something to do with, are they second language learners? are they maybe not ready to move to the next level of learning? There's just a lot of questions around how the data is gathered, what exactly it means, and then how does it actually relate to a student achievement? So it's important that we recognize we have a high population of English second language learners. How are those kids being evaluated? They're learning a language and then expected to perform well on an assessment in a language that maybe they're not very strong in yet. How does that work? So I've got a lot of questions, but I definitely appreciate the growth element. One of my students actually made historic growth after the end of at the end of the pandemic. So I was really happy to see them celebrate her in that way. But we need to look just a little bit more, but not lose sight of the fact that we have made so many improvements across so many venues in the schools in Charlotte.
Thank you. All right, across North Carolina, there have been longstanding concerns about teacher vacancies and turnover. What should CMS do to bolster recruitment and retention efforts for teachers, and how can the board support these efforts? Cynthia, you can start us off.
I had a corporate career that also involved hiring new people, recruited, and it's built an intern program at Royal Insurance. So I kind of have an understanding of how recruitment works. One thing I think we also need to recognize when we talk about recruitment is that most of the salary money now is directed towards new hires from the state. So the district, the school board, needs to work with county commissioners to make up the gap for experienced teachers. I was one that goes several years without a pay increase. So the supplement maybe can be used because not only are we competing for teachers with all our surrounding North Carolina counties, and this, as a native North Carolinian, embarrasses me that South Carolina pays their teachers better than North Carolina. We're also competing with Fort Mill. We're competing with Rock Hill, easy commutes. And they've got a better salary scale, period. So how can the county commissioners and the school board get together to make up for some of that gaps? Certainly appreciated the comments about the pathways to the classroom. And that is definitely something we can look at seriously to ensure that qualified teachers, especially with the younger children, are in place. It takes a long time to learn how to teach little children. So that's basically it.
Thank you. Lisa.
Would you repeat it one more time?
Yes. What should CMS do to bolster recruitment and retention of teachers, and how can the board support those efforts?
When I was in CMS, during the time in the mid-2000s, we had lots of people coming to Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. We couldn't keep them. We had a plethora of teachers. I would like for us to look at that. A lot of it comes not just with the salary, which right now there are 49 counties that border states, and we are losing to Virginia, Tennessee, and South Carolina. It's no bones about that. But we need to look at the housing initiatives that CMS has started. We need to look at working closer with the county commission and saying, yes, we need more for our supplement, because we do not get the supplement that the state gives other counties. We have to provide that. So we need to work closely. Our superintendent does a great job of working with the county commission, but we need to work even closer and get the parents involved in the community. We have a strong relationship with the CLC. Business partners need to become more involved in looking at retaining teachers. It is a shame that when you have more than 15 years of experience, you're not getting those step increases. I worked under those conditions. I would like to have a higher retirement. I know Ms. Stone would like to have a higher retirement,
Yep.
But the state froze us. So that's something that we have to look at. It is imperative to do that and keep our teachers here in Mecklenburg County.
Great, thank you. We only have a couple minutes left, so try to keep these answers as brief as possible. But as communities across the country weigh the importance and debate the importance of public schools, how can CMS engage the great majority of community members who do not have children in the district? And Cynthia, we'll start with you.
Well, you know, like I said, I am a native, so I want Charlotte, my hometown, to be the world-class city that we aspire to be. The way we're going to do it is make sure that companies who look at Charlotte and this region to move here recognize that our schools are world-class schools. So we've got some work to do on that front. There are so many good things about our schools that don't get publicized, but we also have to face the fact we got some warts we need to put the freeze on and deal with that. But that's what we need. I feel like that's what we really need to be doing.
Great. Lisa.
We've already started with the CLC, with the business community. We are working closely to build the reputation of CMS. We are the 16th largest district in the country. We are with the Great City Schools Consortium. People go yearly and bi-yearly to meet with other members of school districts across the country. So yes, we are started. We need to continue that, and that's what we are doing right now. There are members here of the CLC who are here supporting us. I thank you for being here. That is what we're doing to build that relationship.
Great. I think we can squeeze in one more. There's a little less than 2 minutes left, but so maybe 30, 40 seconds. What are the biggest needs facing the schools in your district specifically? And Lisa, you could start us off.
Getting students back in CMS. District 5 has a lot of children who left during COVID. I want to see them come back. Many of our largest private schools are located in District 5. Some are in District 6, but they're close enough to District 5 that they'll go. I want to see the parents say, my first choice is a CMS school. And we can do that through continuing to raising our scores, raising our standards, keeping them high, which we are, and saying, choose us.
Thank you. Cynthia.
I agree with everything Lisa says about what we need to be doing, but I also want to hedge this with a little bit more emphasis on student mental health. We're at a crisis point. We need to make sure we provide the supports young children, elementary children need, because a lot of the issues that the kids are facing as high schoolers actually start very young. And if we recognize them, we identify those mental health issues they're facing, maybe they'll be better equipped. Growing up's hard, and they need all the support they can get.
Great. Thank you both so much for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Great. Next, we have our final conversation of the night, which is District 6. This seat is currently occupied by board member Summer Nunn, who is not seeking re-election. So we have 3 newcomers, candidate Tony Emahel, Anna London, and Justin Shealy. Thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it. Good? Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. As I'm sure you know, we're going to start off with 1-minute intros to tell us why you're running for the school board. Eli's in the back there with the timekeeping. Tony, we'll start with you.
So I am Tony Emahel, and I am delighted to be a candidate for District 6. To find out additional information on me, I'd encourage you to go to my website. That is aimhighwithtony.com. Also, for a lot of information on my background, WFAE has just recently published some responses from me regarding different things that I've done in the community and the different positions that I've held within CMS schools. I am running for this seat along with 2 candidates that do not have a personal investment in District 6. One particular candidate is running with a corporate initiative in mind. She has absolutely not been forthright in the reason why she's running. And so safety shows up in many forms. I believe that we have some vipers that have slid into our system that cause distractions from our board with the school system. And
Thank you, Tony.
He says 10 seconds to end. Am I? Oh, is that okay?
Sure. Anna.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here when it's dark and cold and rainy, and thank you for hosting this. So I am Anna London, and I started my career as an educator 16 years ago. I taught pre-K for a few years while getting a master's in counseling, and then I was a counselor. I did crisis intervention and behavioral health, and then for over a decade, I have strengthened this community through workforce and education. So I know firsthand how critically important a strong public school system is to a thriving community. I believe in making sure every single student is prepared for life after graduation, so making sure they are employed, enlisted in the military, and/or enrolled in post-secondary. And when I say prepared, I don't just mean in words, I mean in achievement. I also believe in building back trust with the community through clear, consistent, transparent communication, building back trust with the families and the community, and then also fighting for higher teacher pay and fully funded public schools.
Thank you. Justin.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Justin Sheely. I am a parent, husband, soon-to-be foster parent, and I am a family law attorney that practices in North and South Carolina. I have dedicated my professional career to advocating for the best interest of children. I not only handle divorce cases, but I handle high conflict custody cases, child abuse and neglect cases, and I'm a guardian ad litem. And as a guardian ad litem, my job is to advocate for the best interest of children. A lot of my cases revolve around parents' concerns about the education system, both in Mecklenburg County as well as in South Carolina. And I have dedicated my career to making sure that what's in the best interest of our children is what happens to them. So I do have a vested interest in this community. I'm a parent and a soon-to-be foster parent whose children will be enrolled in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, to get started with the questions, we're going to go back to that same question about academic growth. As we've been talking about, CMS recently celebrated historic academic growth across the district. There were some rough spots, including third grade reading scores being slightly down and graduation rates being slightly down. What do this year's results say about the progress CMS has made, and how can CMS continue to improve? And we'll go in reverse order, so Justin, you can start us off.
Yeah, as every candidate has said, we have had historic gains, and I'm proud of that. And as every candidate, I believe, would acknowledge, there's still work to be done. It didn't take a day to get into the position our schools are in, and it's not going to take a day to get us out of that position. So I think we do celebrate the gains that we've seen, and we strive to continue to do better. The goals and guardrails that have been put in place by Dr. Hill and the board are very aggressive. And when I first saw them, I was like, wow, these are incredibly aggressive goals. The board could have taken the easy approach and said, we're going to set very obtainable goals and then surpass them and then sell us a bill of goods in the media that they've done this historic thing, but they didn't do that. They set goals that are aggressive because they understand the value of our education system and that it's going to take tremendous efforts to continue those gains. So I'm very proud of the gains we've made, but I believe the board and everybody else acknowledges that there's still work to be done.
Great. Anna.
So I agree with everything that, that Justin said and what others have said. So I'll make it very specific to District 6. I agree that the superintendent has provided stability and consistency, and the current school board has done an incredible job of creating goals and guardrails, and this first year of the 5-year strategic plan shows that we're on the right track, that the system is on the right track. Specific to District 6, we have some of the highest performing schools in the entire state and some of the lowest performing schools in the entire state. And so I think it's incredibly important to really look at what's working and what's not working in the schools that one elementary school specifically. They have had progress and improvement over the last 2 years, but they're still considered one of the lowest performing schools in the state. And so I think it's important to look at what's working, what's not working, and we know what organizations are currently coming into the schools to provide tutoring and enrichment activities and support where the educators and staff may not have the capacity to do that. And so I think it's really important to make sure that this first year, that this progress that we saw this year continues, and we continue to scale what's working by providing professional development to the educators, to the staff, making sure that they have what they need to continue to support the students, and then continue to increase parent and family engagement, because we know that parent and family engagement plays a critical role in student achievement.
Thank you. Tony.
So I think that it's great that we have applauded all of the growth and the achievement of the students. and the staff, the educators. What I do find a problem with is when we have consultants have come into the school and they claim the achievement is all their work, particularly for some schools. I believe that that's disrespectful to our educators, and I believe that as we create these partnerships throughout the year, we need to make sure that we have partners that are partnering with CMS that does not see their role as an entitlement and see their role as something that is the only benefactor of the success, and that we need to make sure that we are honoring and respecting the work of our educators and our students. And if we truly want to say that we honor and respect the work that these teachers have done in the classroom to get these students performing where they need to be, we need to be sure that our budget reflects it and that we're not paying people where the money should be set aside to go to our educators.
Thank you. Okay, next question on school funding. In the last budget cycle, there was some debate on the board about whether CMS should ask Mecklenburg County for additional funding to support a higher teacher salary supplement, even as a bulk of teacher salary is set by the state. Meanwhile, there is no state budget, and the federal government has withheld federal funding at certain points in the last couple months. Given this uncertainty in state and federal revenue sources, going forward, do you believe Mecklenburg County needs to play a bigger role than it already does in ensuring schools are adequately funded? And Anna, we'll start with you.
Sure. So as was mentioned, this is what always happens whenever we start with District 1 and go to District 6. So I think there have been a lot of great answers. I agree that Mecklenburg County could play a greater role. I also agree with what was also shared with continuing to scale public-private partnerships. I think that Dr. Hill, the current school board, and others have done a great job with building credibility in the community, and I think that the historic gains have also shown that that Dr. Hill is credible, that the current school board is focused on the right things, and that our educators are focused on the right things. We just need to continue moving forward. So I do think there's opportunity for the county to play a greater role. I also think there's opportunity, like I mentioned, for increased public-private partnerships. Over the last few months, I've had a lot of conversations with educators who have talked about, of course, higher teacher pay, but they've also talked a lot about being valued in the community and feeling like they're not as valued in the community as educators and staff were, like when I was a child growing up here. Our teachers were our local heroes. And so I really think, yes, there's opportunity for the county to play a higher role or a greater role. There's opportunity for teachers to make higher pay, and we do need to advocate for that. But we also need to do a better job of just valuing teachers in the day-to-day, in our day-to-day community and day-to-day life. So different activities that, whether it's the CELC or other corporate partners, tickets to games, supporting different incentives so that educators feel like the community sees the difference that they're making too.
Great, thanks. Tony, we'll go to you next.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. The question is, do you believe Mecklenburg County needs to play a bigger role than it already does in ensuring schools are adequately funded, given the uncertainty in state and federal revenue sources?
I absolutely do, and I think that comes with prioritizing the current budget. As a board member, the board is responsible for making policies. We are. And so I believe that at least one of my opponents is in this race and has connections to a couple of vendors, not just Sid Kimball Consulting, but also Charlotte Works. And the goal is to be a part of the board to strengthen their position and influence of the policies. Now, this is the information that the public needs to know. This is the element of deception that comes when elections come. Now, I'm not saying this because it's not true. It's evident. It is evident. And it is so critical to the family that is behind both of these organizations that they actually sent me a cease and desist letter for intimidation purposes. Okay, so let's talk about, and it makes you uncomfortable, but these things are real, and the public needs to know this. The public needs to know who's running for office, and they need to know that there has been, there has been absolutely a connection between the candidate and both organizations.
Thank you, Tony. And I want to make sure we get to Justin's answer on this too, but I also want to give Anna an opportunity to respond for about
I'll
a
yield
minute
my
or so.
time to Anna.
It's all right. You can still speak. I'll be quick. So I made a commitment to run a clean and respectful campaign, and it is really disappointing for one of the candidates to spend their entire time focused on distractions, false narratives, and misleading information. And I refuse to participate. I am who I am. I am in this for the right reasons. And I will continue to be respectful and lead a professional and clean campaign. I do not have anything to do with the contract that continues to be referenced. Absolutely nothing to do with it. So it is really unfortunate that there continue to be distractions, misleading information, lies, and false narratives when our community cares about these kids, these educators, and what's best for our community.
All right, Justin, we'll go back to you for the question about whether Mecklenburg County needs to
You don't need
play.
to repeat the question. The short answer is yes. I do believe the county can do more, and that's not to diminish the role that they are already playing. But as we've seen, our state can't pass a budget. The federal government is shut down. So nobody's coming to save Mecklenburg County. We've got to do it ourselves. So if the county can give more, they need to do more, and that's my answer.
Great. Okay, we have about 5 minutes, so we'll see how much we can get in here. But my next question is, for several years, the CMS Board of Education has worked with a consultant to implement the student outcomes-focused governance approach, ensuring that the board is focused on setting and monitoring student outcome goals and guardrails. What do you see as the strengths and weaknesses of this approach? Justin, we'll start with you.
I believe that the strength of the approach is that we are addressing the weakness of our school system, and that's our student outcomes. I think it's no secret that where the school system is weak is that our schools have lagged behind for far too long. So setting these goals and guardrails in place has been a tremendous strength because we focused on what's important, and that's our students. And so when we focus on what's important and what's in our classroom, then we put our priorities in place, and that's our students.
Great. Tony, we'll go to you next.
I would say that the weakness of that particular guardrail is that there is an attempt to wrap success around low performance students, where the system has continued to fail in that performance. When you look at the fact that we have only 44% or mere 44% of the students that are performing below grade level, that means that there are only about 59%, 50-some% of students that are actually performing at grade level. And if we looked at that on a grading scale like we grade our students, that's an F grade. So we don't want to channel our students into labor today jobs or pipelines that will keep them performing at low levels and keep them in a low state of life. Because after we place them in a job after graduation, do they have the core proficiencies to move forward and compete in the world with other people? Get licenses, meaning professional licenses. Do they have those proficiencies? So the weakness in that plan and that program is that we are trying to wrap systemic failures to educate our students at a high level around cute, catchy words, which is low performance.
Thank you. Anna.
So I think your question was around the school board adopting a student outcomes focused governance. Okay.
Correct.
So I believe that the school board adopting a student outcomes focused governance has been incredible, similar to what Justin mentioned, that it forces the school board to spend a certain amount of time in every single school board meeting only focused on student outcomes. And so they are forced to talk about progress, achievement, and achievement gaps, and look at all of the different benchmarks that they're required to meet. So I believe hiring the consultant that helps the school board with the student outcomes focused governance was an incredible opportunity to really focus the school board on governance and get them out of the day-to-day details, which we saw with the historic gains that it's working.
Great. All right, and I think that is all the time that we have here. Thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And yeah, that was our last race. Thank you all so much for coming out. We really appreciate it.
Can we get another hand for James Farrell for moderating tonight?